"Stop, thief. Someone's stealing from this house." That's what I heard. No joke, on my very first day at the ranch, my uncle left me just as the Texas sun was baking my face, and sweat kept dripping into my eyes. And I'm thinking, what kind of TV movie madness am I living through right now? This lady, the infamous HOA, Karen, full tennis gear and perfect hair nails like tiny daggers, she was calling 911 on me in my own driveway, convinced I was robbing the place. And within 10 minutes she had me tied up with a pink jump rope, all because she flat out refused to believe someone like me could ever inherit land in her pristine community. You ever have one of those moments where the universe is just punking you like, "Here you go, kid. Have your dream come true. But let's make it interesting." That was me standing there with a box marked kitchen stuff and my uncle's scrawl, grinning like a fool despite the sweat. Thinking back to all the years I'd wanted this life, horses, open space, freedom. My neighbor Dorothy, this sweet, sunburned lady who looked like she'd seen every story the wind ever told, waved and called out, "Welcome home, Elijah. This place is special." And I could tell there was a whole library of secrets behind that smile. Not that I got time to ask, because suddenly here comes that pink golf cart barreling down the dirt road, and I barely got out of the way before she screeched to a halt, like some NASCAR driver late for brunch. She jumps out, clutching her phone like it's a grenade, screaming about calling the police, nails clicking hair, unmoving, a force of nature, if that nature was pure chaos. "There's a black man stealing from Walter Brooks's ranch," she shouted into her phone, glaring at me so hard the heat felt cold. I tried explaining calmly at first, then less so, that I was Walter's nephew. I had the deed, the will, all of it in my truck. But the way she said, "Someone like you, man, you don't need a dictionary for that one, do you?" Suddenly she's convinced I killed Walter, forged the will, and is yelling into the phone about keeping me here until police arrive. Next thing I know, she's shrieking that I'm reaching for a weapon. I'm just trying to get my paperwork for real, grabs a jump rope from her golf cart and starts lassoing me like I'm a rodeo calf. I just stood there, box in my arms, not sure if I should laugh or snap as she wound that rope around me, calling it a citizen's arrest. "You people think you can just come in here and take whatever you want? Not on my watch," she hollered, and I just locked eyes with a picture of Uncle Walter taped to my dash. His smile somehow still calm. He warned me Texans could be stubborn, but this, sirens tore through the heat and a police cruiser rolled up. Officer Rodriguez stepped out, this young Latino guy with the look of someone who's dealt with Karen-level crazy more times than you'd believe. "Mrs. Sterling, why is this man tied up with a jump rope?" He asked, not reaching for his weapon, but just a notepad, which pretty much told me whose side the universe was on. "He's stealing from Walter's ranch. Arrest him," she demanded, puffed up like a furious peacock. Rodriguez looked at me, sweaty. Box still in my arms, rope digging into my wrists, and asked, "Gentle as you please, can you explain what's happening here?" I told him my story, kept my voice steady, mostly out of stubbornness and partly because I couldn't let this circus be the last word on Walter's legacy. But Victoria wouldn't quit. She started shouting that Walter never had any black relatives, that I must have killed him, forged the will. The way she danced around her words with Rodriguez right there, you didn't have to guess what she meant. Rodriguez's face tightened and he asked her straight out, "What exactly do you mean by that?" But before she could dig that hole any deeper, Dorothy swooped in like an avenging angel, hair, wild breath short but eyes blazing. "Victoria Sterling, what in the name of all that's holy do you think you're doing? Why is this young man tied up like a Thanksgiving turkey?" Victoria tried to double down, fumbling with her phone, calling for backup, though she wasn't really dialing anyone. Rodriguez had to radio in for real, and in minutes we had 2 more cruisers and a growing crowd. Victoria, seeing her audience, suddenly clutched her chest in the world's worst faint, except I could see her thumb working that phone texting Plan B to someone named Brandon's son. The officers, clearly used to her drama, asked if she needed medical attention, which snapped her out of her swoon faster than any smelling salts. Then Brandon himself arrived, drunk, loud-weaving, suit-all-wrinkled, crashes his Mercedes into my fence and claims I'm trespassing on Sterling family property. I couldn't help but laugh, honestly. Dorothy whispered, "That boy's been in 3 drunk driving accidents, but money talks around here." But it was the next twist that nearly broke Victoria's shell. Brandon blurted out right there in front of everyone that he owed $700,000 to some guy named S, and the ranch will cover it. The officers, suddenly paying real attention, watched as Dorothy held up a cassette recorder. Red light glowing. Turns out Walter had asked her to record any and all Sterling drama just in case. When Brandon drunkenly started to reveal Victoria's so-called Plan B to get the ranch if he won't sell willingly, Victoria lost it, tried to drag him away, but not before the whole neighborhood heard. Rodriguez and the senior officer started checking my paperwork. Everything was in order, license will deed notarized and official. That didn't stop Victoria from raving about forgeries and conspiracies. Then right on cue we heard the thunder of motorcycles. 6 guys, all leather and tattoos, rolled up, led by a monster of a man, had to be S. Brandon's creditor. They asked if I wanted to sell the ranch, offered $2 million in cash right there, right now. But no way. Not for sale. This place meant everything. S just nodded, told Brandon he had 24 hours to find the money, or else. And that's when the real neighborhood woke up. Dorothy called an emergency meeting and people started coming out of the woodwork. Mrs. Hernandez, Mr. Anderson folks, who'd all been bullied or harassed by Victoria for years. There were stories of fake citations, property damage, even rumors of poisoned pets. Turns out Dorothy had more than stories. She had receipts, recordings, even a USB stick from Mr. Anderson showing Victoria forging Walter's signature on HOA documents while he was in the hospital. The truth. The ranch had never legally been part of the HOA. Walter had protected it for generations. But Victoria wouldn't let go. The next morning, she showed up with security plastered no trespassing signs all over my own property and blocked the road with moving trucks. That's when I remembered Uncle Walter's words. Check the basement behind the water heater. Dorothy slipped me a key she'd been saving for just this moment. I snuck downstairs, found a hidden metal box, and inside, there it was. The original 1887 deed, handwritten, stating in fancy legal language that this property shall forever be exempt from any homeowner association. Letters, lawyer docs, records of every time Victoria tried to pull something. I ran copies all over the neighborhood, posted them up for everyone to see. It worked. The tide turned overnight. People finally saw the truth that Victoria's authority was just smoke and mirrors. Even as she tried to block the roads, the community began to rally, sharing stories, defending me, pulling together in ways that made me feel for the first time like maybe this place really could be home. But Victoria was never just about rules. She was about obsession. We found more, including a tape Walter recorded in '95 saying flat out he believed Victoria had poisoned his wife Linda, but could never prove it. There were letters, photos, and then a journal from Linda herself the day before she died, afraid of what Victoria might do. And just when it seemed like we had enough, Victoria snapped, completely caught on my security cameras in the dead of night, dousing my porch with gasoline, muttering about how it should have been hers. But Dorothy, ever the guardian, triggered the emergency air horn. The whole street lit up, people pouring out of their homes to surround her as she threatened to burn it all. I'll never forget the sight, Victoria wild-eyed, clutching a lighter, confessing to everything as the police arrived, still ranting about how Walter should have loved her, how Linda stole her life. Dorothy confronted her with the evidence. Victoria's hand shook, the lighter went out, and officers finally stepped in and cuffed her, dragging her away as the crowd watched, stunned. Afterwards, the law caught up. At last, Victoria got 25 years for Linda's murder. Brandon got time for fraud. The HOA was forced to pay damages, and S even testified for the prosecution, closing the book on his debt. We renamed the ranch for Walter, and Linda opened it up as a therapeutic riding center for kids and veterans, and Dorothy took over the HOA, changing the only rule to kindness first. I still get letters from Victoria in prison pages and pages about Walter obsession regret. But forgiveness isn't in the cards. What matters is this. Walter's dream lived on, not as some prize to be hoarded, but as a place where hurt people could heal, where community actually meant something. So here's the big finish, right? But life doesn't tie up that neat. Maybe that's the point. Because even now, sometimes I'll see Dorothy shake her head and laugh. That's why you always need good neighbors. Elijah never know when you'll need him to face down a murderer at 2 a.m. The ranch is alive, noisy with kids and horses and hope in every sunrise. I remember what Uncle Walter said. It'll be special, kid. You'll see. So what do you think? Was justice served, or is it all just shades of gray? Let's hear it. Would you have handled things differently? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe. 'Cause stories like this, they're never really over.